Can I see how I look before we start? July 1st, 2021, the NIL rule changed. That's the day my life changed.
The schools were reaping the benefits of the billions of dollars in TV contracts.
For almost 100 years, no one challenged it.
Now, the LVIIs and the Angel Reeses, they're getting 6- and 7-figure deals.
The more eyes you got on you, the more people are gonna try to tear you down.
I do get a lot of inappropriate comments.
All the stuff that they say on a daily basis is disgusting.
You're playing on the biggest stage every week.
Angel Reese is not active tonight.
Could you expand a little bit more on why Reese didn't play in here?
Yeah, I could, but I won't.
I don't have to tell you guys everything that's going on in my life.
And now, for the big moment, your 2023 Heisman winner is...
I guarantee there's some girl out here who's trying to get their hooks into Jaden Daniels.
I'm not going to let anybody take my focus from the game.
You don't have to play the money game, but if you want to capitalize, you can do that.
I love the game. I could also take care of my family for generations.
We thought of everything that would happen in NIL.
I would have $100 in my account as one of the star athletes at LSU, and I was confused why.
Reebok is a question mark.
They didn't reach out to you?
No. The whole team is so excited to have you.
These athletes are in a pressure cooker.
I remember saying that I wanted to be done, but winning is addicting.
I think this is the beginning of it, and it's beautiful.
Welcome to the IMC Financial Consulting Financial Freedom Project Week. Please welcome Isaac Cooper, CEO and founder of IMC Financial Consulting.
Pickable, I just put them bookers in my chain. Pickable, 80 pointers like a Kobe game. Pickable, 7.62s, I make them plain.
Please welcome Tyrone Ross, CEO and co-founder of Turnqey Labs and principal of 401 Financial. Please welcome James Bradberry, cornerback for the Philadelphia Eagles and now a Super Bowl 59 champion. Please welcome Corey Green, Associate Athletic Director for Samford University. Please welcome Jim Cavale, CEO of Athletes First.
Ain't the one to play with. Pull off in a lamb, double pocket all that times, mister. Get off on your man. If he hate you, disrespect.
All right, good evening, everyone. How we doing? Good. I know we have some athletes in here as well, so we're gonna do a little exercise. And I'm not gonna give much context. Give me one clap. Give me one clap. Give me two claps. Give me three claps. Ooh, I just love being in sync. That's beautiful. So, as you can see from the video earlier, there has been a lot of conversation, a lot of news, a lot of information around name, image, and likeness. So we wanted to make sure that we brought incredible people that are not only passionate about this information, but they're also experts. And so they all have different expertise and perspectives when it pertains to name, image, and likeness that is not only unique, but it's also going to be great for you today and this evening. So before we get into the questions, I want to learn more about the folks that is to the left of me. And so I'm super excited about the conversation we're going to have this evening. So, of course, immediately to my left, we have Jim Cavale. So, Jim, if you don't mind sharing with the folks who you are, what you've built, and why this is important to you.
Well, it's an honor to be here. Excited about this conversation. Honored to be not only with you, but this panel. My name is Jim Cavale. I'm originally from upstate New York, came all the way down to Alabama to play college baseball and never left. So I've lived half my life here since 2005 when I graduated from the University of Montevallo, where I played baseball. And I've built 4 different companies in the sports and fitness space over the last 20 years. One of them is Iron Tribe Fitness, which we started here in Birmingham and built to 50 gyms throughout the Southeast. Built a software company called Teamworks, an influencer that every major college and most pro teams use to manage the life of the athlete off the field. And sold those 2 companies, and now I'm building athletes.org, which is the Players Association for college athletes. There's not a lot of rules right now in college sports, and sometimes that's good for athletes, but sometimes it's not, because they're not protected in a lot of ways, and it's setting them up for a lot of tough situations when they're done playing. And so we're really focused on organizing college athletes so we can set rules that actually protect them in their college experience.
That is excellent. Let's give Jim a round of applause. We're excited to hear what he's going to bring to the table. All right, next up we have Corey Green. Corey, if you don't mind introducing yourself and why this topic is important to you, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Coop. I'm Corey Green. Grew up in Calera, Alabama, first-gen college graduate, college student at my household. I went to Samford University, had an athletic scholarship to play basketball, and then when I graduated, I got into the banking world. Spent about 20 years there before I joined college athletics. So I've seen both sides of the fence when it comes to the financial literacy piece and the importance of household financial literacy, starting through the folks that are in this room, but also see what's happening in college athletics over the past 3 years. And there is a lot of nuance to it. And I see that while it's a lot of hype and a lot of opportunity out there, there are a lot of pitfalls and holes that our young people are falling into and not having the main thing be the main thing, which is education. So want to make sure that we level set, provide clarity, but also encourage you to pursue your dreams, but pursue it with the right information and the right guidance around you. So appreciate you putting this together, and certainly glad to be a part of this panel with these gentlemen up here today.
Great. Let's give Corey a round of applause. We're excited to hear from that perspective. All right, next up we have James Bradberry. Now this is unique now. James, didn't y'all just win an important game not too long ago?
Yeah, we won the Super Bowl.
Oh, okay. I just want to throw that out. Let's go and clap that up real quick. Come on now. From Birmingham, represents PG County. One thing I do want to point out very quickly, we have a few athletes in here. One specifically, hey, girl, how you doing? One specifically I want to point out, and if we could give him a round of applause, Levante Bentley. Let's give Bentley a round of applause. About to join the mini camp at the Bengals. Birmingham's own and grown. Got 2 degrees, bachelor's and his master's, and so we definitely want to shout that out. So with Bradberry, if you don't mind introducing yourself. Of course, this is a topic in which you probably wish you could have been able to play and get paid in college. But you've been able to manage yourself outside of college in the NFL in a great way. So why is this something that you want to make sure you share information with our audience tonight?
So like Coop said, my name is James Bradberry IV. I grew up in Pleasant Grove, went to Pleasant Grove High School. Originally went to Arkansas State out of high school. I was there for 1 year. And then I transferred to Samford University, graduated from there in 2015. I got drafted in the 2nd round by the Carolina Panthers in 2016. I played there 4 years, and then I signed my next deal with the New York Giants. I was there for 2 years. Then after that, I signed with the Philadelphia Eagles for 3 years. So like Coop was saying, I've been a student athlete. I don't know what my NIL deal would have been like, but played in the NFL for 9 years. So I've been able to navigate not only the professional side of being an athlete, but also, now I'm trying to enter into the business world, negotiate deals, learn more about deals. Learned a lot from these guys just sitting backstage. So it's an honor to be here, and I'm glad to be up here speaking to you all.
Absolutely. Let's give Bradberry a round of applause. As they say, Brad B love the kids. All right. All right, next up we have Mr. Tyrone Ross. If you were able to join us last night, you're probably saying, yes, he's going to speak again. But Tyrone, if you don't mind introducing yourself and why this topic is important to you, sir.
All right, well, since we all doing athletic backgrounds, I'll do that since I didn't yesterday. But I got to say this like I always do. First and foremost, I am the son of superhero parents, Carol and Tyrone Ross Sr., so that's out of the way. So I ran track in college at Georgia Tech. I was a 2004 qualifier in the 400 meters. My dream was to be an Olympian. In 2008, I was a half second off the qualifier. 2012, I tore my groin 2 weeks before the Olympic trials. So my dream is not going to come true. But what that did was give me the foundation to learn what it meant to have goals and be goals-oriented. And then what I was forced into what life looks like after an athlete, right? And that happens a lot in track. And I have a lot, I know gold medalists that are broke, right? Multiple gold medalists. So it was something that illuminated the importance of financial education for me. Why this conversation is so important to me is whether it's athletes, whether it's entertainers, whatever the case may be, I think financial education is incredibly important at any stage. What's missing at any stage, whether it's high school athletes, college athletes, and professional athletes, is financial planning. Nobody wants to talk about that, but that's the issue, because they don't know what financial planning is. By the way, financial planning is a verb. It's the thing that changes. So your financial plan should change with your first contract to your second contract to your third contract into retirement and everything else. So anyway, that's what's important to me. And then you'll hear from me about some of the things that athletes should be doing now from a structure and financial standpoint that they're not doing, and then, really good financial advice on how to do that and to own, right, operate your brand, which they're not teaching now. So my goal is to add a little bit of a voice there.
Let's do it. Round of applause for Tyrone. Let's go. A few more shout outs. DJ Dale, Cam, you going to the Jaguars, I believe?
Come
yes,
on
sir.
now.
DJ Dale, let's give them a round of applause. What's happening? Let's do it. Appreciate you pulling up. Continue to spread this wisdom. All right, Jim, I am coming to you first. There has been a lot of communication, NIL, then you're hearing this word around collective, players getting paid. I would like to get paid, but I don't think we are aware that there is a difference between NIL and collective. And so could you just give us a basic understanding on why there is a difference and then how they both function when it pertains to athletes negotiating deals?
Yeah, so NIL is here because of a guy named Ed O'Bannon. Ed O'Bannon was a basketball player in the 90s who ended up suing the NCAA in the late 2000s and finally won in 2015. And he won over the improper use of his name, image, and likeness being in a college basketball video game made by EA Sports, where the players' likenesses were in the game, but the players weren't getting paid. And so that case was decided in 2015, but the leaders in college athletics didn't want to make it a legal rule, and so they were forced to in 2021 through several other court cases. And when that happened in 2021, the biggest fear of college athletics was that college athletes would become employees. And so to disguise performance pay, the college athletics world has used name, image, and likeness as a way to pay players, really for playing quarterback, not for what name, image, and likeness is really meant for, which is to endorse a brand with your name, image, and likeness, right? So the delineation would be Patrick Mahomes makes money with his name, image, and likeness through the State Farm deal that we all watch with his commercials. But Patrick Mahomes also makes money from the Kansas City Chiefs to play quarterback through his performance deal with the Kansas City Chiefs that gives him a base salary and incentives for throwing a certain amount of touchdowns and getting to a certain round of the playoffs. Well, in college sports, there is no delineation. Everything is NIL, but really 90% of the money being paid to players is actually to play their position. And there's a lot of danger in that because what you really have is donors laundering money through a collective, which is a shell company that has a relationship with the school, to be able to pay those players and get them to go play there, right? So every donor wants the best players to go to Alabama or Tennessee or whatever their school is, and so they're using NIL as a way to make that happen. But the problem is they're not employees. So what does that mean? Well, first off, the athletes aren't getting paid with a W-2, which means their taxes aren't withheld, right? So now you're getting all your money, and you got to be smart enough to know how much to save and how to actually do your taxes at the end of the year. Another big issue is these are endorsement deals. Really, it's performance deals, but it's being disguised as endorsement deals because of that fear I mentioned by the schools of the athletes being employees. And so what happens is the agents are charging endorsement rates to their athletes to do the deals, which is 20%. Whereas in pro sports, Patrick Mahomes' quarterback deal, his agent's only taking 3%, right? So there's another 17% being given away to the agents. And there's a lot of other pitfalls that come with it as well. But the biggest problem, if you remember nothing else, is that we're disguising performance-based pay to play your position on the field or court. We're disguising it as NIL, and it's creating a lot of issues for athletes that are going to be seen more and more as time goes on.
Right. That's really good distinction, because I was not aware of that. I just thought it was the same pot of money, and you pay me to score touchdowns and do the Tootsie Roll in the end zone. Now, Corey, you have a very unique perspective when it pertains to this shifting evolution around NIL policy, infrastructure. All right. So knowing the role that you play at Samford, there has been some recent hires when you think about the coaches. The head basketball coach, I'm a former Samford Bulldog, so shout out Samford. Head basketball coach, and there's a few other hires that's on the horizon. How much has the NIL world impacted the process that colleges and universities go through when selecting a coach to represent their team?
I don't think it's a part of the process that it has not impacted, not just for the coaches, but the players. So we had a pretty successful coach that took a job that we wasn't necessarily expecting to happen that quickly. And if I can give you a timeline, we found out on a Friday that it was a serious ordeal. Saturday morning, I'm on a call with the president and the AD thinking about candidates and what's our next step. Sunday, we're interviewing people. Monday, we're interviewing people. And Monday night, we name a coach. And the reason we had to expedite that process is because I had to call all of our players and try to talk them out of jumping in the portal. So everything that we did, the speed that we took to that process was really to retain players and to calm down the uncertainty of who the next coach is. I would submit that the NIL is not even a performance-based payment. It's a recruiting war treasure chest. Everybody wants to win the recruiting war. Yeah. And so what you have is a lot of upfront angst, a lot of upfront movement, but we have to talk to our coaches about, the question is, what does the NIL pot look like? Even at a Samford, at a mid-major. And so, look, it's a real thing. No coach feels like they can compete without being able to go out and offer this new benefit to players. It puts tremendous strain on the resources and the finances of a college athletic department, but it certainly expedited the process of us identifying a coach, getting comfortable enough to hire a coach, expediting the announcement of the coach, so that it can calm down the players, the parents, the agents, and everybody of the players that we already had on our roster to keep them from jumping in the portal and going somewhere else. So NIL was, everything about the process, and it's everything about decision-making now if you want to, have a competitive team.
Right. I want you to stay right there for a little bit, Corey. I'm actually going to come back to Jim and Corey on this. What is the business model for colleges and universities when it pertains to sports? And I want to hear that.
Oh, you're about to open up a can, Coop. So as I mentioned, I came from banking, financial services. I was a commercial banker here in town for Regions. And when I got to the university and the role that I have, which is all about revenue and business, I was kind of shocked at looking at the statements, the financial statements. It's not a well-run business. Athletics generally cost university more so than they make money for a university. So the misunderstanding is that the school is making all this money off of players. That's not true. The school is actually losing money on athletic departments. There are only 2 sports in all of college athletics that really make money. That's men's basketball and football. And those are generally through TV contracts for football and the NCAA tournament for basketball. So when you think about what's out there and what the noise is about the opportunity to make money, please understand that even for the big Power 5 SEC schools, they generally are losing money on their athletic department. And so when we take that into account, and now you're saying the money that we did not have to pay these players that we spent on infrastructure, resources, facilities, training staffs, all this kind of stuff. Now we have to take some of that money and pay a player who hasn't necessarily brought a new dime to our pot. And that's hard to hear, man, but that's the fact. There is no college that's really benefiting from a single player coming there. Season tickets are selling anyway. Donors have been giving anyway. Now we have redirected those funds. And so it's a real challenge. Colleges are nonprofits. Y'all know what nonprofits mean. You don't make a profit. And so when you talk about splitting revenue from a nonprofit, you already find yourself underwater. And so again, this thing is not sustainable because there is no real revenue associated, no new revenue associated with gaining these players. So it's going to cost other programs their funding, their resources, their assets, meaning the soccer team may be in trouble at some schools. The softball team may be in trouble. And so there's a rabbit hole that this thing has opened, and everybody's on the surface level trying to pick the flowers, man, but it's going to get bad if we don't get some type of legislation, some type of legality, some type of institutional control for the whole, college landscape, and it's going to drain the pot. And more importantly, he was talking about the donor. The donor was never interested in making a player rich. Never. Still isn't. The donor is interested in their school winning. And if you think they're going to keep paying money to rent a player for 1 year and don't win, then we are in real trouble. So when we talk about all this movement and mobility, which creates the value in the transactions, but at the end of the day, it's not winning ball games. And that's going to drain up the resources that are associated with it.
And Jim, if you could follow up, I've heard you say we have been able to commercialize the revenue, but we haven't been able to commercialize the expenses in the frame of the business model of
that's actually from a debate I did with the Big East commissioner in D.C. But, college sports has commercialized itself tremendously in the 21st century. The media deals at the power conference level have gotten to the point where schools are getting anywhere from $30 to $80 million a year per school to be on TV. And because of that commercialization, and because colleges operate as nonprofits, which means they have to spend all their money, they don't want to have a profit at the end of the year, instead of paying players that help them make that money at these big football schools, who do they pay? They pay coaches. And they don't just pay them with an annual contract, they pay them when they fire them. We just saw Jimbo Fisher get $70 million to get fired and sit on the couch, right? And so these buyouts in the coach contracts, these annual salaries to the coach. By the way, going back to his donor comment, Kirby Smart makes $13 million a year to be the head coach at Georgia, and he's calling donors who are pretty smart businessmen and women saying, hey, can you give me $1 million in my collective to help me get good players so I can keep my contract and renew it? Wait, what? So we're doing everything backwards, and a lot of what Corey said is why this is truly a house of cards. It's a house of cards in many regards. I mean, number one, sports are going to be eliminated because of this, and that's sad, but it's true. Number two, you're going to see a lot of athletes continue to jump around every year because they're allowed to be free agents all the time. You're going to see schools not be able to pay players eventually because their donors are going to stop giving. I could keep going, but it's a house of cards. And the thing is this is a multi-billion-dollar sports and entertainment business. And I'm not really talking about the Samfords. I'm talking about the SEC, ACC, Big 10, and Big 12 schools, 70 of them. Those schools are a part of a multi-billion, how big? $18 billion a year. When you add up all the revenue across all those schools, the March Madness deal, the CFP deal, the conference media deals, the tickets, everything, $18 billion. And the other businesses in America that are multi-billion-dollar sports and entertainment businesses share 50% of their money, their gross revenue, with the players. The NFL makes $20 billion, $10 billion goes to the players. NBA makes $10 billion, $5 billion goes to the players. That's just how American labor works with these multi-billion-dollar sports and entertainment businesses. So, unfortunately, it's actually probably going to get worse before it gets better, and the big schools are going to have to pay the piper because the government and the courts are going to make them. And that's just where this is going.
Love it, love it. Free jewelry, y'all. Make sure you take notes. Make sure you take notes. All right, Brad B., I'm coming to you. So as NIL opens up more opportunities for athletes to get paid, what advice would you share with them about balancing short-term money versus long-term financial planning?
I would tell them just to be aware of their overall brand. Like Jim was talking about, NIL and stuff is pretty much based off your name, image, and likeness. And that's pretty much, in the NFL, we just call it a brand. Like he was talking about Pat Mahomes. He gets paid by the Chiefs. And, of course, he's the quarterback of the team, one of the greatest quarterbacks probably in the history of the game. So his brand is already built just being that guy. But then when you start getting these TV deals, these commercial deals, then you build your brand even more. And then that's not even talking about like being a philanthropist, going out in the community and doing stuff for the community. Of course, he probably enjoys doing that just like I enjoy doing that and giving back. But like when you start doing that stuff, people are also more willing to donate more to your cause, and then you can go out there and do even more stuff. So when you say like short-term versus long-term, I would just say now that social media is so big, like it wasn't that big when I was at Samford. I went to a small school. And it wasn't that big when I first got in the league either because I played for a smaller market team versus, like I played in Carolina. They don't really have a big NFL market right there, but then when I got to New York and then I got to Philly, I realized how much bigger the market is because I'm closer to New York. We play more TV games, we win a lot more. We have more notable players. So people are attracted to, I play cornerback, so that's quote-unquote a sexy position. So people are more willing to
yes, it is.
People are more willing to invest into me and use my name, image, and likeness, my brand, in order for them to sell products to the people. So I would just say be more aware of your brand, what you put out there on social media, because people are paying attention to that no matter if you notice it or not. People are always paying attention to you. Like I went to Mexico last year, and I'm hearing "Go Birds" from across the room. I didn't even know Eagle fans were down there in Mexico. I went to Fort Lauderdale. I met a whole bunch of Eagles fans. They have their own bar set up down there just for Eagle fans to come watch the game. So I got to always be aware that people are watching me and that I have a brand that I'm trying to uphold and, try to use to help the community, but now also help my family as well.
That's good. And I'm going to come to you and Tyrone on this question. Before I ask this question, I do want to poll the audience. For the athletes that are being approached about deals, for the athletes that we know that is going to the league, if you could just raise your hand if you've been approached about, hey, man, let me invest in this company, man. Either been called by a cousin, a friend, an uncle. Have you been approached about deals and investing in deals off the field? If you just raise your hand, yes or no? You ain't got, your cousin may be in here. It's all right. You can still raise it. That's exactly right. We'll keep the lights off, my boy. All right, so Bradberry and Tyrone, and I'm going to come to you first, Tyrone. How should athletes navigate really assessing deals off the field, right? And so this is where understanding business, understanding opportunities, understanding value, but unfortunately, around NIL, the ones that's receiving the money, they're getting younger and younger. And so there's this family involvement that is now a non-negotiable due to their age. So with these deals, with these resources coming through, and with the foundational understanding you have around finances and financial advising, how should they navigate opportunities around these different deal structures that's coming their way?
All right, so I got a lot to say on this topic, and I'm talking to the parents mostly now, but and the athletes as well. So bear with me here. There's a lot to say. So name, image, and likeness is not new. So I'm negotiating a contract now for a project that I'm going to be recording for something, and name, image, and likeness is in all the contracts that you do when they are using your likeness in a video. Every time I'm negotiating a deal, that's the hang-up. Because we sign away our name, image, and likeness so that you're going to run this video. I'm going to get paid for it now, but something happens to me. My family going to keep seeing my image and likeness promoted, and we don't benefit. This is going to my attorney. We Xing it out. It's the hang-up every time. So name, image, and likeness is not new. So now I'm going to pose a question. Before I sign a contract with any company, before you sign a contract with my company, before I'm a player and I sign a contract with an agent, before I'm a sign a contract with an owner who owns the team and he owns me, do you own yourself? Exactly. Everybody in here, when you get done later, go do a Google search on your name and do it once a month. And for the athletes and those that generate their name generates images and likenesses online, look how much hits and clicks that get. Take that number, write that number down. Have the mama, auntie, whoever going to be sitting at the table, the father, the uncle, have that part of the conversation with it. That's the image part. That's what my name, my brand, what I've done. All your articles, all that other stuff. Those of us of a certain age used to go and get the newspaper and clip it out, right? Now you can pull all that stuff up. So I'm not even getting to the point of talking money, coaches, nothing like that. I'm doing all of that now. Again, I'm talking to the family structure. We're talking about ownership. Own you first. So if you don't own, if I'm coming to your house, and I've been saying this to a friend of mine, his nephew, 5-star, just signed a ridiculous deal to go to Texas A&M, left Indiana. And he was texting me like crazy. I said, before he talked to anybody else, do all these things. That kid saved so much money, and he negotiated for the bag. Right now, negotiation. So let's talk about negotiation. You don't need nobody, you don't need anyone in the room for that. These are basic things. Once you have, again, fluent on money, talking the language of money, you can start to negotiate in a way where they know the money talk, I'm not for play. We're going to talk about negotiating a deal where if I sign to you, then you agree not to recruit another player in my position over this. Like, you start talking that talk. Because once we get to the money, I'm going to run you out the room. So now the money talk is this. Well, here's the thing. What did North Carolina just announce they're doing? They're moving their athletic department to an LLC. So what does that mean the players are? What is the best way to go? Again, I have an LLC. Folks in here have LLCs. You have C Corps and businesses. If I'm a player right now, I told everybody I know that's going to college, folks to reach out, have that young man create an LLC. Why? There's no contracts. He said that, right? What do LLCs and LLCs do when they deal with each other? Business. We got to have a contract. So now you are responsible for it. Anybody in here do sole proprietor business? Well, you get a 1099, right? Taxes. So what does that do? Yeah, I got to do taxes, which is why, by the way, for every $100 you get, take 30 of it, put it aside, 30%. I don't care where you are, just put that aside for any athlete that's not there, not taking out taxes or whatever. But here's the thing. If my LLC is doing business with your LLC, right? Now, I'm not Tyrone Ross with North Carolina, not Tyrone Ross with Georgia Tech. I'm dealing with the LLC. You have to give me a 1099 as a sole proprietor. Why? You have to show your books to me. And if you don't, there's repercussions for that. I'm not talking money yet. Inside of my LLC, anybody know how a trademark works? How it works? What do you need to do for a trademark? Nope. You put TM on the end of it. That's the start. Then you register it. Any good lawyer will tell you that. You have a good idea, you put TM behind it. That's the trademark. That stands. Why? Now, if I'm a player, I have some type of catchy phrase, or I have a way that I wear my sleeve, or I have shoes, or whatever it is, own it, register it now. So all that, I'm not talking money yet. All these things we're trying to figure out. We're going to put a price on that, and the coach going to come in and go, okay, cool, here's what we're going to do. We want to register an LLC. There's certain things that we want to register, trademark, IP, intellectual property. Those things take a while. They're expensive. Also, we want a trust set up. We want to set up a trust because anything that is done is not going to be in Tyrone's name. It'll be in the name of the trust for reasons that we will get to when we actually start talking about money. The house. Why aren't houses in trust? We can get to that at another time. All these big houses you see the athletes buy, the house ain't in the trust, but they want to do all that stuff after they earned all the money because they didn't know the language of money before they signed that contract. Again, I wish my nephews were old enough to be going through all this right now, but if I'm sitting with any athlete right now, that's what I'm giving them game on. Because once we go in and actually start talking about money, you're running everyone out of the room because you know what you're talking about. I'm almost done. Bear with me. Now, let's get to the money part of it. So now my LLC is dealing with another LLC. You're doing business with a business. So now I'm going to go, you know what? Where am I playing? I'm going to register my LLC where I reside. See, this is estate planning stuff, right? This is financial planning stuff. Register my LLC where I reside or where I play. That's a decision to be made. Ideally, you would make it where your home residence is, where you figure out right away where you're going to retire or where you want to live, not where you're living while you're playing, even if you buy a house there. One of the first things we ask clients, right, and this is especially when I was at Merrill Lynch, these people got more money than God, they walk in and they want to retire. It's like, where do you want to retire? The first financial planning question they ask you is, where do you want to retire? Why? Because we pulled the chart up in the class today. For every $100, the government puts out a chart. For every $100 you have across the country, what it's worth. In Alabama, it's worth $114. In California, your $100 is worth $88. In New Jersey, it's worth $87. How many agents are telling the athletes that? But they're quick to do taxes and all this stuff. No. Here's the deal. For every $1 million you get is really $870,000 before we even touch it. You know why? Because they don't speak the language of money. I'm going to wear this out while I'm here. I don't care their title. I don't care their relation to you. I don't care what they've done or say they're going to do. They're a small minority of people who speak the language of money in this country. And if you speak it, you win in spades, and that is with anybody across the board. So my job is to empower you no matter who you walk in a room with, coach, AD, athlete, agent, whoever else. You should know more about that than them, and you should be able to call out, that's bad advice you're giving me. You're not getting 3%, you're getting 1.5%. And I'm going to make you money because now you're going to take what I corrected you on and say it to all the other athletes that you work with. I'm done right now. So my point of what I'm saying is this. Name, image, and likeness. Google yourself. Own yourself. Trademark things that you own. So now by the time I step foot on that campus, I'm an entity. I'm not an athlete. This can end today. I'm good because I own everything attached to me. By the way, I want to know every single dollar that's generated. I want to know all the money, anything that's attached to me. I need a piece of it. I'm sorry, not me, my LLC. That switch, if athletes had that switch alone, these conversations will go a lot differently, and the people that want to come in and give ignorant advice won't be able to because there'll be knowledgeable people at the table to say, no, we already got a plan laid out. All you are going to do is help facilitate it. You'll get your worth, but you're dealing with no one at this table. You're dealing with, we ain't for the joke LLC. But anyway, I'm done. There's more on it, but that's...
all right, yeah, clap that up. I like it. Because we got to have advocates, right? And so one of the things that I heard is that there is a good value that you need to put on your team when it pertains to going through this process. And Bradberry, I'm coming to you. What role has your team played, if it's either attorneys, advisor, business manager, when it pertains to assessing deals, getting clarity on opportunities? If you could share that with our audience, especially the athletes that have some opportunities in front of them, but they may have yet to put together the team that they can trust.
Yeah, so Tyrone, you did a great job. That's going to be hard to follow up.
I appreciate you.
Because you pretty much hit everything. But, yeah, honestly, I didn't really have a team set up when I first got in the league or even when I was in college. Like I said, I went to a small school, so my mind wasn't even thinking about all that. You know, I was just trying to initially just worry about, you know, making it there first. And even when I got there, you know, I was worried about staying there. And I think that's important, too, along to go with what Tyrone said. But, like, when I went from Carolina to New York and I started making a whole lot more money, that's when, like, my agent started helping me get my team together. And, of course, when you first get in the league, you got to find an agent. So finding someone that you can trust, that you don't feel like it's going to – I mean, it's kind of hard for agents to steal money from you nowadays, but, like, even, like, now in college with NIL, these guys are, like, asking for 20% of the money that they're getting, which I think is crazy because in the league you can only get up to 3%. But, of course, they don't have rules in college right now. So finding somebody that you feel like is not going to try to – what word can I use? Cheat you out your money, you know, that's first and foremost. And then when I found my agent and I started making more money, I didn't really have a whole lot of marketing deals because nowadays anybody can be a social influencer. And now brands are starting to work with people that don't even play sports. I'm not going to say they don't have a talent, but they do have a talent. Like, they're good with using media to their advantage. They're good with being personable and whatnot, which I had to grow accustomed to, you know, when I became a bigger brand, from making a Pro Bowl, being an All-Pro. So I had to be in front of the camera a lot more and start speaking a lot more. So I had to get comfortable with that. And then that's when I kind of started getting marketing deals. Like I was with Hoka for the past 2 years. One, because I was an all-pro. But two, because I had a good social following from what I was posting and whatnot. People were tuned in to what I was doing. And I would say my marketing person at the time helped me with that, just pushing the envelope. I got into fashion a little bit. I had a friend from Birmingham that was helping me put my outfits together, and a brand started paying attention to that, started sending me more deals, and started sending me more clothes and whatnot. So yeah, and then I also hired a business manager because then, I became a bigger name in the NFL. I was coming back home a whole lot, and people that had startup businesses or they just wanted me to invest in them, when you start talking about like percentages and LLCs and stuff like that, that was going way over my head because they were in a field that I knew nothing about as far as like I didn't know anything about real estate. I went to school for sports administration. They didn't teach me anything about real estate in there. They didn't teach me anything about banking. So I had to learn all throughout the process. But, through building my first house with a name that's pretty prominent in Birmingham, Regina Van Williams, she kind of became my business manager, and she started teaching me about all these things like in real estate and also banking and percentages and how people are going to try to approach me with deals and, how they going to throw these words around, throw these numbers around. It's going to make it sound good, but at the end of the day, you got to go under like that thin layer of skin and get like deep down in there and figure out what they really bringing in, the revenue that they bringing in, and how much they gonna profit versus what I'm gonna end up getting. How long it's gonna take for me to get my money back, and also start making a profit off of that. So yeah, man, it's through trial and error. But first and foremost, I feel like you just gotta trust the person and try to find and understand that they're good people at the end of the day.
Yep, that's good. That's good. That's great feedback. Great. Give James Bradberry a round of applause. It's really good insight. All right, Jim, I am coming back to you, sir. And if you could posture your response for parents and the athletes with this, what misconceptions do most parents and coaches have about how NIL actually works? And then what would you share with our audience on what they could do to protect themselves with some of the blind spots and the misconceptions of NIL?
Yeah, so because these college athletics NIL deals are really disguising recruiting or pay for play as NIL, it creates a problem because the coach is selling to the player and the parent, hey, come here for $100,000 and play quarterback for me. But the contract, the actual paper, is a publicity rights deal. Yep. Basically saying, your name, image, and likeness will promote this university by making appearances at these dinners and being on these videos, and we can use that forever, however we want, and all that stuff. And so first of all, really making sure that the contract, the publicity rights NIL contract you're signing with the school, which has nothing to do with playing quarterback in this example, making sure that it doesn't lock you in and give you a ceiling from what you can actually do with your name, image, and likeness beyond the deal with the school. Yep. Like, that's a huge, huge issue. And the college athletes who have a good attorney or a good team are tearing that contract up and making sure, I'll do 4 appearances, but I don't like this clause over here that says I can't do any endorsement deals with brands that conflict with the sponsors of the school. No. I want to do endorsement deals with anybody I want to, and there's other examples. And so that's one thing. For the coaches, it's an issue because now the coach recruits a player who comes there to play quarterback for $100,000. We'll stay with that example. And the quarterback doesn't perform well. Well, now the coach actually wants that player to go into the portal so they can unlock the spot and get somebody else. But there's no performance contract about playing quarterback to hold that player accountable to. So unless the player wants to leave, coach is kind of stuck with him. And so there's a lot of issues because the paper is not reflecting the actual relationship. And, what you talked about with the LLC is actually, it's a really good point because right now, because they're not employees and because they're not getting salaries, you can do a deal as an LLC, but unless you're a really, really, really good player and you know your stuff like you were saying, it's going to be hard to get the school to do a deal with you as an LLC. Yep. They're going to say, that's just not how we do it. You got to do it as an individual, sign a W-9, and we're going to pay you on a 1099. You're a contractor. But if you're a really, really good player, I bet you probably could get them to do it as an LLC, So It's just a really weird game. And what we work on at athletes.org is important to this conversation because in the pro ranks, there are players' associations, unions, that make sure none of this stuff is a problem. Every contract is a uniform contract. And so you can't change contracts and take advantage of athletes' ability to make other types of NIL deals. The contract is agreed to by the athletes and the league to be a standard contract. Agents can't make more than 3%, and they have to take a certification to even be an agent. And if they mess up once, they can't be an agent again, right? I could keep going, but there's a lot more structure in pro sports because there's a players' union making sure that structure exists. And that's what athletes.org is building as the players' union for college athletes so that we don't have these problems forever.
Excellent. Great feedback. Let's give Jim a round of applause for that. That's good insight. Really good insight. See, Greena, I'm coming to you. One of the things I struggled with as a student athlete was the student part. I was like, I came here to play football. I don't know what y'all talking about. And then, of course, I went to Samford and figured out they're like, we don't care about the athlete part. It's more so the student that we focused on. Now that we have, again, these opportunities, what do you think is the right balance of supporting the athlete but still maintaining focus on education and development?
I think that's a great question. You know, I would encourage everybody, especially if you have talent and ability that could get you to the next level, to focus on the main thing. We're talking this high level like everybody has these opportunities to go out and make hundreds of thousands of dollars. That does not exist. We got a lot of young people transferring, jumping in the portal, and getting stuck in there. I think it's about 61% of players that jump in the portal and don't go anywhere. So you're giving up a free ride, great education, being able to develop your skill set, in the hopes of finding something better. So we need to level set this thing. You better have a whole bunch of leverage and a whole bunch of talent in production if you go in there talking greasy to an AD or a coach. I'm serious now. When money gets involved, it gets very complicated. And we're foregoing the education that my parents told me that was the main thing you going to college for, little buddy. I know you won 2 state championships and you think you the man, but you better go get that piece of paper. That's the thing that changes lives, not $100,000 that you're going to blow through. So I want everybody in here to realize that the real benefit of your talent is not going to be maximized in the next 3 to 4 years. You have to invest into yourself through education and relationships. These folks that are graduating now don't even know which homecoming to go to.
That's good.
Okay.
That's good.
Okay. It's the strength of an alumni base, the prestige of a university, you committing as a student athlete, and people trusting that. When you get out here, man, in the real world, corporate America, whatever, they don't care how high you jumped and how many touchdowns you scored. And for 98% of us that go to college on athletic scholarships, the next level is a corporate job. Hopefully. So I would encourage you, regardless of what the coach talking about, you got to get yours. And it's harder and harder for a high school student to get a college scholarship now, because we got 24-year-olds to go get. We got grown men playing college ball now. And guess who's getting squeezed out? Mm-hmm. The high schoolers. So it's 2 things I would tell you. First of all, you have to be real serious about your own education. You can't even get accepted into a lot of colleges without a good high school performance, no matter how great your talent is. And you better be fixated on your character.
That's good. Say that one more time.
You better be fixated on your character. That's your real brand. Mm. People, your talent will get somebody's attention all day. But people only invest in character, man. Yeah. And so I don't want to be the downer here. I'm a very real dude, though. And I see so many of our young people giving up the ghost, man, giving up that thing, and the parents are driving these conversations. Yeah. Which is unfortunate. There are about 180,000 scholarships, D1 and D2. That's all sports. It's more kids playing in ball in Alabama than that. So the reality is, you can work hard, you can have talent, you can have all the gifts in the world. It's just not enough slots out there, man. And so what's next? The school gonna benefit from you playing. What are you gonna benefit from you playing? That's what we're talking about, avoiding the pimping. Excuse me.
No, you good. Safe space, baby.
Everybody talking about the money the school make. Your job is to go get yours, not money. It's education. I'm all for paying athletes. I was the brokest joker on campus, straight up. I wish they would have gave me $20.
+1.
But what we learned is we can make it, we can get it done, we can get some of value without money. And let me tell you this other thing about money. It's a performance now. So you're right. This $100,000 quarterback, nobody care how good of a student he is. If he ain't hitting on nothing, the coach gonna tell him, hey, look, man, we ain't got no money for you next year. And no playing time. Hoping you jump in that portal.
Yeah.
The next year. So y'all listen, man. This thing has always been a pipeline for us to get a better opportunity.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, oh, yeah. Say it one more time, man. Oh, yeah.
It's been that. It was the only way I would have ever sniffed college. My parents didn't have nothing on it. We're in much better situations. Parents are blessed. We're investing a lot of money on the front end into this athletic thing, man, from this high. We're traveling all over the country with it. I'm not hating on that. But it ain't enough slots, y'all. When the last time they created a new pro team? Listen, I am here for dream chasing. Please understand that. If you got it, go for it, man.
That's right.
But, hey, you better have some humility about yourself. You walking in there with some boss talk, man, you better have something about yourself.
Yeah.
Because there's too much inventory out there, y'all. You have turned yourself into a commodity. Don't even matter who the coach is. All y'all care is where the bag is, right? That's what all I heard. Yeah, I hear all that. What's that bag behind you got in it, though?
That's right.
I'm serious, man. I really don't want this generation to, A, forego the opportunity that you have to better yourself through education, first of all. Let's value that. But also, don't get caught up in the hype of what you're hearing about all this money flowing around, because there's a lot of not truth-telling going on.
Yeah.
You're on a contract. They start paying you in your season and stop paying you after your season. And there is no guarantee for next year at all, period. So you better perform if you get paid. That's real life. So all I'm saying is the balance is not for the school.
Yeah.
The balance is for y'all and the parents and the support system. Y'all stop telling these folks to jump in the portal, man. If you got offers, you got offers. But to go see what's out there, what's out there is a lot of folks that wish they hadn't done that. We better wise up on this thing. You better get your education. You better learn some grit and commit to something. Stay where you at sometimes. That's better than going out there in that field. Yeah. I don't know what your question was, Coop.
No, you didn't hit it, my boy. Yeah. And I want to come to Jim really quick.
I just want to say,
yes, sir.
Everything he's saying, I couldn't agree with more. And, you know, it really, you can't understate that the big-time level is full of leadership that is breeding the opportunity to not put academics first. I mean, Oregon, Washington, USC, and UCLA are in the Big Ten. Cal, Berkeley, out there in the Pacific Ocean, is in the Atlantic Coast Conference. What does that mean? That means Cal and UNC play women's volleyball on a Wednesday night. How are you going to go to school and major in what you want to major in at Cal in any sport, playing in the Atlantic Coast Conference? So the chase of money from the coaches, from the presidents of these schools to get the biggest conference media deal and keep moving around and all the things he said. Like, don't depend on them to help you put academics first. You have to want to put academics first. When you ask, you're doing your contract and it's all about money, and you say, well, I want to major in, biochemical engineering. You can't major in that here. It's big-time college football. There's a list of classes you can't take. That's how it is. So academics and athletics are colliding, and the reality is, even if you're playing at that level, that top level, and you do get 6 figures, you still might not make it to the NFL. And if you don't, hopefully you got a degree and you can get an entry-level corporate job starting at $50,000 a year. And if you think you can handle that after going from making 6 figures, and hopefully you didn't blow it, and you still have some of it, and now you're going to start entry level and you're going to push through, a lot of that comes from not going in the portal and learning how to be the third guy on the depth chart and staying and battling until you can earn that first spot your junior year. So all the stuff you're talking about is important, but it's being breeded for those things not to happen by the leadership at these top-level schools.
Coop, one thing. Players don't even go to class now. Now, our players go to class. Let me put a plug in Samford University. We go into class and all that. We're not playing. But players literally are taking online classes, not connecting to anything. Matter of fact, AI or somebody else doing their work for them. And look, they're only cheating themselves. They're not developing any skill sets outside of what they came there with. So the beauty of a college is the relationships, is the foundation. You grow and develop as an adult. You do all of these things that help you later on in life. So we want our inheritance right now. That's what we tell them. Give me all mine up front. Please invest into yourself. Please do that. Take yourself serious like that with your education. I'm sorry, my brother. Go ahead.
No. All good. Go ahead, Coop.
No, go ahead. Yeah, if you got something to add.
So I am very pro NIL. I'm all for everything that's happening. I'm going to respectfully take the other side of this, and it's not disagreement, but there's a couple things I want to point out. Making yourself a commodity, gold is a commodity, right? Are we all clear on that? Gold is a commodity. So is rice.
Break down what a commodity is,
right?
Real quick.
So when he says you become a commodity is something that's just easily available to everybody, right? So again, corn and rice are commodities, right? A commodity. When someone says that to you, they're basically saying, well, you're just going to become like everybody else. That's basically what it's saying. Like there's nothing special or rare about you being a commodity. So again, speaking the language of money, commodities are traded. There's different types of commodities: gold, silver, platinum, rice, beans, whatever the case may be. But gold is not soybeans, right? So I'm fine with being a commodity. That's the first thing, right? Again, understanding the language of money. There's nothing wrong with being a commodity, but you need to be the commodity. The second thing is this: what no one, and I've had plenty of conversations about NIL and arguments and everything, because I'm pro everything that's happening. Now let it rain down, because there was a point, remember, to the 2 Oklahoma players who got in trouble for getting cream cheese on their bagel? Remember that? The pendulum is swung the other way. Deal with it. But the problem is there's nobody in the room who speaks the language of money. Watch this. So you telling me I'm supposed to be talked out of taking $100,000 or $200,000 or whatever right now? Why? That means you're telling me you don't understand the time value of money. Money in my hand, you can look it up. I'm not making this up. The time value of money. Money in my hand today is worth more than tomorrow if I speak the language of money. Now, if I'm taking it and blowing it, then that's different. But if you give me $100,000, give me anybody in here and give them $100,000 and come back in 5 years, watch what happens. It shouldn't be about, my first contract, my second contract. No. The minute you put $1 in my hand, I'm turning that into something. That's what needs to be taught. Second thing is this. I stay 4 years, I get a degree. And I go get a job, right? $50,000. So I'm staying here 4 years to get a job starting at $50,000 when you're going to give me however many years of my salary right now. One of the things you realize when you start a business, right? There's projections that you do. And in the startup world where I am, you raise capital. So basically what you're doing is you're pulling your future earnings forward, right? So if someone is going to come to you right now and say, hey, you are really, really talented. We're going to give you that's what they used to do. They used to give us scholarships off projection. Your scholarship was based on whether you could place a conference and everything else. Now that's money-based. So if you're going to pull my earnings from 27 years old to 18, why am I not taking that? Who is convincing me out of that? That person does not need to be in the room because they don't understand the time value of money. I'm not talking about socioeconomic status. It's the ability to get $100,000, $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 now. And then ask that person, how expensive is money right now? Look at the 10-year. Look at rates. You want to give me money now? So here's the thing. Give it to me, but we're going to structure how you give it to me. You're not going to give it all to me now. You're going to give it to me in different forms. What did I say yesterday? Only 4 things you could ever do with money. The 5th one is the big one. Make it, grow it, protect it, transfer it. What was the last one? Somebody asked me in Cavale when you left. He was there last night. He said, what was the 5th one? I said, convert it. Yeah. So the form in which I take my money means that I speak the language of money enough to go, no, you're just not going to give me cash now. You're going to give me my money in a form that's going to earn something while I'm here. So yeah, I want $500,000. Take $400,000 of it. I want you to put it in half in the S&P 500 index, put half in the CD, put it in this trust, let it earn interest. I'm going to take the rest, pay off my mother's light bill, all this other stuff, and we good. I'm not going to touch that money, right? Then you talk about the different structures that should be set up. There should be different accounts set up that are funded so that this individual, if they decide they get hurt or they decide to transfer 4 times, again, the transferring is ridiculous. But even if they decide to do that, where that young man had a $2.4 million deal at Tennessee, came to California to get a worse team, worse deal, less money, and ridiculous state taxes, is all of that money when he was there, by the way, starting in high school, he signed a real first big NIL deal. The only reason why he should have made that deal was because he should have gone, look, I've taken X amount of money over these years that I've been in college, and I'm making this much to breathe. And to be in the huddle go, okay, fellas, look, we got to win this quarter, but I made $20,000 doing nothing last quarter, right? My money's earned. I'm going to show y'all the statement after this play. Ready? Break, right? Like that's what needs to be happening. That's the empowerment. Now, what that also does is it locks everything up from family or whoever else wanting to grab it. So I definitely agree with that. Education is important, but here's the thing I do know. Again, I'm the first in my family to finish high school. I ain't been asked what college I've gone to in a really long time, right? Really long time. I have an endowment at Georgia Tech. I ain't got a Georgia Tech degree. I wish I did. But once I actually learned what the world wanted from me, they don't want your degree. They don't want your degree. They want you along with the degree in hopes that where you went to school gave you enough value to add value here, right? I have Ivy League people who work for me. I don't say that to brag. I say that because in the Ivy League, it's a system of going through it and then go get a high-paying job, and you could be a high earner. Yes, they're high earning, but they don't teach you ownership and running your own business and taking a piece of what you actually do over that 4 years and doing something with it. So anyway, the reason why I take the other side of that is it's really important to understand time value of money. Money in my hand now is always going to be more valuable than in the future. Look it up. Why? Because of what you can do with it in this moment. And then as opposed to what's going to happen later. And you know what it also does? It sets me up as an athlete, a journalist, a doctor, a lawyer, whatever, to structure a better deal later, because when I took the money when I had it, right? There was a stat that just came out, a bunch of college basketball players staying back now because of the money that they're getting. That's a beautiful thing about NIL. Stay and get that money. Run it up, right? And then do it later. So anyway, I'm off that. But I do think, and it's not to devalue education. I'm a big believer in education. It changed my life. But my point is, the days of a child sitting, I didn't know what college was when I was getting recruited. But the days of, especially athletes, and especially black boys, right, and those who look like us, the days of just saying, go and get a degree is over. Because if they're going to give you money along with that potential to get a degree, they're giving you the chance to change your life, right? Forget the position, forget any of that. You're giving me money. You're pulling my earnings forward, right? That's a lot of analysis that goes into that. So it's more than just looking at the money. It's looking at the money and saying, okay, you're basically, you basically able to dial my 20-something-year-old self and put that money in my hand now. You cannot tell these kids, or should not rather, that they should not take it or the families not take it. Again, this is in light of having great financial planning because it is bad financial guidance. It's easy to say don't take it because you could. No. Investopedia.com, time value of money. Read about it, do the right thing with it, and then you open up the world for that kid to go wherever they want to go, study whatever they want to study, and have more leverage, as he mentioned in conversations. If you ain't got leverage, you can't talk crazy.
Oh.
Hey.
Yes, sir. Yeah, and look,
Good
real
point.
quick before you respond, for those in the audience, if you have questions, get them ready. We're about to open up Q&A after Corey gives his feedback.
No.
And so get ready for Q&A session.
No,
Yes,
I'm
sir.
with it. I think that's the point. Listen, if somebody offer you a tangible thing of $300,000, I'm the last person that's going to tell you not to take that. So don't get that twisted. What you do need to understand, as he talked about soybeans and gold, is if you're a soybean, don't be out here stunning like you gold.
Yes, absolutely.
And that's the self-awareness that I'm
Yeah.
talking about whenever you go into a room.
Yeah.
And so, again, if you are that special, it is recognized. We walk all past beans and rice on the ground. We will pick a piece of gold up, straight up.
Great point.
So, please, hey, if you have that opportunity, go for it. I'm saying don't deprioritize the main thing of college, which is education. And none of this money is going to be sustainable as far as the long-term play of NIL. But if you can get 300 or 100, get it. I'm just saying know your own value, know your own worth. Don't be out there chasing something that's not available for you based on your skill set or your options right now. So it's all good. It's all valid. We're saying the same thing.
Yeah, for sure.
But please understand who you are in the conversation. Soybean, gold, corn, or whatever.
Yeah, don't walk out of here and be like, man, you a soybean. I'm gold. Don't do that.
Soybean head.
All right, so I actually heard a name that I was going to bring up in my next question that I want whoever said it to bring it up in their question, which was Nico. So we have folks here that have mics to share with those that have a question. I believe we have one up front, so we could get it to Miss Smoot. How you doing? What's happening?
Oh, I wasn't going to say anything, but I do think, hi, I'm Sheila Smoot. It's a pleasure to be here. I do think that I do love Corey's point. I love both points. I think you got to do both. The question is, Nico, I mean, we all know at Tennessee, those of you who are doing sports for real, 2.4 million, and your parent got in the way. I do a little of this, and I know parents get in the way. But this is one person that's not going to get between a mother and her son. I'm moving on. So I think athletes need to understand you need to have a chat with your family because it's a money grab. And it's not a lot of money. It looked like a lot of money, but it's not. It's your long-term plan. So I do want you all to respond to the Nico event. And now his values went down. Look at Shedeur Sanders. Everybody thought Shedeur was number one, but guess what? The media controlled that conversation, and I really don't think he was the number one guy. I mean, he was good, but the flash and the cash with his dad made everybody think he was extra good, and he was very grateful and humble, which I love about him. So my question is to the panelists, and Mr. Bradberry, thank you for giving back to the community. Your gala is always great, full of athletes.
Yeah, round of
for
applause
coming
for that.
home.
That's right.
You and D'Amico Ryans and all the great athletes. Right. Give back to your own community. So my question is this. How do you do both? I think the NIL, and Jim, you know this. I know a big Division I school, when an athlete went back to share his contract with his parents, they voided the deal. So can you tell them how, I mean, literally, you know the school, and I'm not going to call names, and it's sad, because who knows how to read a freaking contract, for real, at that level. So what is your advice, Jim? And also to the Samford athletic director assistant, Corey, how do you tell these kids how to navigate that when these NILs, these collectives are getting in the way? How do you navigate that? What is your advice to them when they do that?
So, Jim, if you could, thank you, Ms. Smith, that was excellent. If you could break down the Nico deal situation, some folks may not be aware with it being referenced. I don't know how to say his last name, so I'm not going to try. But the quarterback out of Tennessee, and then the additional questions that was posed to Jim and Corey. But if you could just give an overview of this whole Nico deal.
Didn't they redo the pronunciation on his last name to IMLCR? I saw that somewhere. Okay. So Nico's the quarterback at Tennessee. He signed a 4-year, $8 million deal back at the beginning of NIL. It was revolutionary. It came out. People didn't know if it was real or fake. He's a California kid going all the way across the country to go to Tennessee. First number 1 ranked quarterback Tennessee got in 2 decades, right? It was a really big deal. And a lot of people don't talk about this, but the first year he got paid $2.4 million to redshirt. Ooh. Didn't even play. Okay, redshirted, got 2.4. All right, and then he comes and gets out there and plays, and he had a good year, not a great year. Led him to the CFP, didn't perform well down the stretch, and then this happened more recently where he had started a conversation with the coaching staff going into year 3, saying, "Listen, you know, I really want a different offense, and I also want more money." And the school didn't budge, and so he announced he wanted to go somewhere else, thinking that he's one of the hottest quarterbacks in the transfer portal. He'll get picked up, and he ended up doing a deal for less than, you know, about 60% of what he was getting paid. And he's in California, as Tyrone was saying, so he's not, you know, Tennessee doesn't even have state tax, so you know, he's a much less net for him. So that's the situation. Now, what you don't hear about enough is, because once again we're disguising performance deals as NIL, there's no transparency on what guys are getting paid. Nobody knows what anybody's getting paid, okay? You might hear that so-and-so is getting paid something, but if you're watching the bottom line on ESPN and you see that an athlete went from the Eagles to the Commanders, you're going to see what that transaction was valued at. When you're on the bottom line on ESPN and you see a player went from Tennessee to UCLA, they might try to put it on there, but you don't know for sure that that's even real. And so when parents get involved, especially at the beginning of an athlete's paid career, it's very dangerous because parents aren't agents and they don't have a national network to really understand the value of their son. And so Nico's dad thought his son was already getting 2.4. He'd probably get more than that and playing a better offense. But because Nico wasn't represented by CAA or one of the big agencies who could easily survey the big schools and find out, hey, I think I could get him this over here. Might be able to get that over there. They got this offense. They got that offense. They got these offensive linemen, so that might be better. Couldn't do any of that because it's his dad. And so that was the hole, in my opinion, in the situation. And you heard me earlier say some things about how agents need more accountability. They need regulation, certification. But when you're a quarterback at Tennessee, you can get the big boys like CAA and Wasserman and WME and Octagon, the big agencies that represent all the best pro athletes. You can get them to represent you, and they can help you figure this situation out if you're wanting to do it. So I think that was a big hole. And I do think it's great that parents, Jaden Daniels, Lamar Jackson, are getting involved representing their sons. But in the pros, there's a players association. I'm not trying to plug what I'm doing in college, but there's a players association in the pros that can protect those parents and make sure they're making the right decision. And most of the time, that parent is doing it on the second or third contract for the athlete, not at the beginning, especially not in college. And so it's just really dangerous because as a parent, you think your son, especially if he's the quarterback at Tennessee, is a huge star and can go anywhere and make more money. But you're not looking at it objective sometimes, and you also don't have the network to find out what the value really is.
That's excellent. Let's give Jim a round of applause for that feedback. All right, C. Green, I believe there was a part B to it. Now, I don't remember what Ms. Moot asked you, so I hope you did.
You asked about the collective and how we...
They don't know how to read a contract. So what is your advice to people who on some of these D1 schools are doing it? It's not out there yet, and I'm not going to put it out there, Jim. I'm not. But I don't think that's fair. Is there some kind of system? I mean, how do you guys handle that? But in essence, it is their right to talk to their parents or their agent or whoever about that contract. Yeah. But there are schools in D1 that say double dog dare you to go in there. It's not the coaches, it's the collective. Mm-hmm. And, you know, because they really don't want to pay them what they're worth. But at any rate, what's your advice to someone who has a situation when a collective goes in and voice the deal because they want to talk to somebody about a contract?
Yeah, that's extremely kind of troubling, I think. You know, if we understand the role of a collective, at this point right now, a university cannot pay an athlete. So the payments have to come through the collective. And so the collective gets to actually negotiate. The coach can kind of tell them this is the framework, what I'm thinking, but the collective is actually the body that has the money, that has the contract, that has the juice, and has really the leverage. And so I would always tell someone, hey, read the contract for yourself. Get somebody who can read the contract. You and your family need to be comfortable with this before you sign anything, right? And so I don't necessarily recognize why somebody would not have the parents be comfortable, because parents are so involved now. It's going to be a problem for you if the parents are not comfortable with that contract. But please keep this in mind. Collectives pretty much pledge out money that they still have to go fundraise for. So nobody, go ahead.
I'm going to say, unpack that. Unpack what that, one more time.
So a collective basically has to fundraise to fulfill the commitments that it's made. So it's writing checks and hoping that the cash show up. And sometimes it doesn't. There are major D1 power schools that missed payroll.
You know, Georgia almost missed payroll this past year with their collective, and the governor passed an executive order in the middle of the season to allow Georgia to be able to pay its players directly without being governed by the NCAA rules because it was going to miss payroll.
Wow.
That's how bad it is. Matthew Sluka, the quarterback at UNLV, left in the middle of the season because he wasn't getting paid.
So let me bring it back to this point. If you have something guaranteed and you say that I'm going to test the waters to see what's out there, that's what's out there. That's what I'm talking about, y'all. So again, I am about you getting all the legit money and opportunities that you can. But there's a lot of, lying and fronting and pledging and promising to these kids that they have no ability to fulfill. And to his point, there is no regulation. There is no body that can hold them accountable. And so at the end of the day, the only thing at risk is reputation. And at this point, who cares about that, right? The next group going to show up looking for the bag too. So I am saying this. I would not tell any parent, any student, any person to sign a contract unless the entire team is comfortable. That means parents primarily. And there are a lot of funny business games being played with young people, their emotions, and making promises to them.
Have multiple attorneys look at the contract, too. You should have a labor attorney look at the contract. You have a sports and entertainment attorney look at the contract. Don't have the real estate attorney that your father went to school with, right? Like, because they're going to find different things in that contract.
A lot of these kids are coming from backgrounds that don't have those type resources. And I've seen where we may have one or two that have an agent, but most of them don't use agents. Look, at the end of the day, this is an additional benefit. Think about that. At the end of the day, this is an additional benefit. And we've, again, made this thing the core value of a person's talent and their ability. I am about people getting money. I want all of y'all to be rich. That helps us all.
Yeah.
But please understand, there are so many non-facts being floated out there about this whole thing, y'all. And I would hate for y'all young people or any person to get caught up in the hype, chasing that pot of gold, chasing something that ain't there. Get it in writing. But even once it's in writing, they still have to go out and get the money to pay you. Yeah. And don't do nothing stupid while they trying to get the money to pay you, because that's their out. Hey, guess what? We ain't gonna pay you. You out of here. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Money makes the tolerance level very short. The things that I did in college, the bum moves that I made while I was a college student, I had grace around me. First of all, there was no social media. And they were not paying me thousands of dollars. It's a business now. And if you are a business, you are a business now. There are business decisions being made. Don't nobody care nothing about your feelings. So, yes, ma'am, that is correct.
All right, so we have time for one more question, and then we are going to, I'm sorry, Rashida. We got time for two more questions, so we'll get one right here for my panelists. If you could trim your responses to under a minute. We have our amazing future leaders here, which are students, and they got school in the morning. And so we're going to make sure that they get out in good time. And so we'll get two more questions, and we're going to make sure that we'll select one panelist to respond, keep it under a minute. And if you have any additional questions, just run up to the stage and connect with our panelists here. But they're doing an excellent job. So, yes, sir.
And this is from a coach's perspective. I'm a high school girls basketball coach, Pleasant Grove, Grove Street. And so what we're seeing is young athletes, always from 6th and 7th grade phenoms, that parents are talking about NIL deals. So my question is, how do we make it palatable for these people that don't have resources to hire or to be around people that can speak the lingo? And how do we change the trajectory to say, hey, not only do we train you to be a top-tier athlete, we need to train you to broker deals, because that's what you turn into, a person, a parent, and also an athlete to broker deals. So how do we change the conversation early before, because once you go to college, you sign your first contract when you get your scholarship. I mean, some people don't read those. So how do we start the conversation early, or what can we do to change the mindset?
All right, who's going to select that? We got one panelist.
I just got a question. How is it that parents have money for travel, sports, and extra trainers on the side, but they don't have time to hire a legal for hourly on the side? That also should be part of the deal, right? Like, it's just that just makes sense. And if you don't have the resources, there's not an attorney, a really good attorney that won't take it pro bono, and or the same way you structure these deals with everything else, you tell the attorney this is a high-level athlete, so on and so forth, right? They'll work with you on the fee to be able to do that. I have hourly fees for my firm, right? And we work with really, people with really, really, really limited means, and you adjust it. So if a parent could pay for travel camps and all this other stuff, then you can pay to have a lawyer $250, $100 or whatever, pay to look something over to you, give you advice. So that's the first. I'll just add that. I think that's really important. If you could pay for all these travel camps and gear and all that, you could pay for an attorney.
All right. We'll get Coach L. I believe he's right there. One more question. Oh, I think he just walked by him. Oh, Lord. My bad, my boy. Come up to the stage afterwards. We're going to get you right.
Coop, you said it like everybody know me. Panelists, first of all, I appreciate y'all for being here and enlightening with this information. I think the biggest portion, because I deal with it sometimes with the parents, is like you said, if they can invest their money into travel ball, they can invest their money into, the skill outside of that and the information. I think the biggest thing that everybody has shared on the panel was talking about character. We talk about character and we talk about leverage. If you have the right character, you have the right skill set, you have leverage to be able to have conversations with the collectives. And I feel like when you talk to the collectives, I've been able to speak on the behalf of players and get them guaranteed money up front. So when you talk and you get guaranteed money up front, that fixes a lot of your issues. But my question to you guys that nobody really hit on, we talked about education and then we talked about the money, but we didn't even cover the fact of you being able to make potential money based upon education. We have athletes, and I have a current athlete at the University of Alabama now that took the ACT again, getting a higher score, unlocking him more financial dollars since he had an athletic scholarship and had academic money awarded to him. That academic money and his NIL money went in his pocket. Can you guys speak to that a little bit, Corey?
No, I think that's what I would invest in, is trying to make sure I hit that ACT. again, the rules have changed to where you can have additional benefits along with your scholarship. So, again, however you can make it, I think through the educational channel, that is it. I'm not as familiar with the nuances around it, but I would commend you, Coach, for being able to prepare your folks through character. That's the first thing. And also get upfront money, which is very rare in these deals. But if they're able to, tap into those benefits in the schooling or in college, I would say that's the way you go. That's the NIL that you chase. That's sustainable. So I'm about that. I think if you can get that ACT or any kind of academic scholarship, then that is a good scholarship to get. And they can't take that from you. You can only lose it through your performance. So I don't know if that answers your question, but I think that's an excellent point, Coach. Thank you.
Just a nugget for you. Anytime you negotiate upfront payments and there's payments of distribution, right? Everybody jots down. So if anytime you negotiate upfront, also negotiate the subsequent payments and when they start and how. That's really important, right? So it's cool to get that money up front, right? Based on the total, when you're going to get it. So from the time that money hits the account, the clock should start ticking on that next distribution. And again, he mentioned this earlier. They're getting all that money in 8 months, right? In some cases, 6 months. So if I get that up front, right, the structure is going to be really important. And again, you feel good about, again, time value of money. I get that money up front now, but that should be tied to when the rest of the money is going to hit and when. So keep that in mind when you're negotiating upfront money.
Let's give our panelists a round of applause. This has been excellent, 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 excellent. All right, so a few housekeeping. So on your way out, especially for our students and parents that are here, we should have plenty. There will be boxed meals for you on your way out to be able to take home with you. So be sure to grab that. Hang around if you want to grab two. I think we may have enough. Rashida, please forgive me. But as you walk on out, there is boxed meals for you. If you want to stick around and ask questions to our panelists, you will have that opportunity. I'm pretty sure they got to get out and get to their fam as well. Thank you for everyone that joined us this evening. We have one more tomorrow night, The Future of Money. And so it's going to be incredible. So if you are interested in cryptocurrency, Web3, digital assets, this is your world. So if we could give everyone a round of applause one more time. And I got to do this one more time. Give me 3 claps. Yeah, oh, yeah, I messed that up. Give me 1 clap. Give me 2 claps. Give me 3 claps. Y'all have a great evening. Thank you again.